Chapter 3. Now. Jade sat holding her violet parasol against the blazing summer sun. She almost admired all these court ladies. They must have serious upper arm strength to hold a damn umbrella all day. They sat around her, or strolled nearby in the garden. It was nice out, but too damn hot. She took a sip of tea. Ugh. Warm. Jade would give anything for a glass of cold raspberry lemonade with some honest-to-God ice cubes. Damn it! As she stood to stretch her legs, Jade peered back at Chateau de Bellevue. These ladies' flower viewing parties, and ladies' tea parties, and ladies' leisure bridge games were awful, and boring, and ridiculous, and stupid. She glanced down to straighten her dress. Purge had given her a wine-colored Brunswick silk gown with magenta ribbons and magenta fichu. So frilly and girly. Tedious. Jade finished her thought. Not to mention, all of this was tedious. She'd been in 1767 France a week now, trying to blend in with the natives. Mr. Blue had instructed her to do so. He said he had things he had to look into, or take care of, investigate. Bah! Jade got to try to integrate herself into 18th century Royal French culture. Oh, and investigate mystical murders? There was that. She was to be undercover as Lady J. Sylvia. Jade shook her head, then wiped sweat away discreetly with her lace-ruffled neckline. Discernible reason, thusly, Jade followed them inside into the cool and shade. Shit. About frickin' time. One of the great things about this dedication to opulence in ancient France was that the gorgeous chateau was spacious, and she'd become immensely talented at the Irish goodbye, simply vanishing before being hounded by the vapid rich bitches, complaining about what to snack on with tea, and who will start the next bridge game. Nope. Not doing that. She sped silently up the stairs, under the crystal chandelier, picking up her priceless gown, making her way into her room. Upon entering, Jade tore off her royal dress and reached for a cold pitcher of water. Condensation dribbled on the outside as she poured and then gulped the glass. She sighed. A carrier pigeon landed at the windowsill, startling her enough that she burped. Jade blinked. Yes, about time. Every afternoon, her contact from Mr. Blue. She petted the friendly, cooing animal and gently untied the parcel from its claw. She fed it a bit of grain and it flew off into the heat. A warm breeze wafted into the window as she opened the small leather pouch to withdraw a meticulously folded, sealed piece of paper. Jade walked to the shabby, antique, pale blue grandfather clock in her room. No ticking. The clock face was still. No humming. She absently smacked it. No response. Purge was stuck until this was all taken care of. After she plopped down on her bed, she unfolded the letter. Mr. Blue just loved being all mysterious and laconic. It read, "Tonight, midsummer solstice, the first murderer will occur in the woods." Jade yawned. Time for a nap, then. Jade had yelled for an hour, or thereabouts. She couldn't be sure. Mr. Blue was suffering some amnesia. Purge was focusing on trying to find a temporal byline to latch onto. Whatever that meant. It was holy hell chaos. Mr. Blue grabbed Jade's room, the small mirror shard attached to the azure console, then threw it against the far wall. The shard expanded into her doorway entrance. "It's Bloomy standing! Round blasting! Clear off! Let me and Purge have a swatting!" He pointed furiously. He was sending her to her room. Jade stormed off. Kiss my ass, and shut her door. Cheeky little bugger, the stranger in blue muttered. Give it a rest, Capes Ilovec Oric Traveler. The woman has been through hell, Purge shouted from overhead. Jade found that being alone in her room was helpful to soothe her, and a good meal, and a brief meditation in the steam room, some sketching as well, and some sleep. Either that, or it was Purge trying to calm her down. Hours later, though, while Jade was feeling restored, refreshed, her time-traveling companion was not. By the lapis and azure podium, Mr. Blue perched over controls, a scowl on his face. The granite slab emerged from the center of the lectern, tinted indigo. It was scrolling bizarre geometric patterns and scripts. As usual, Jade entered, her room vanishing into a tiny mirror behind her and floating to her palm as she caught the final act of a heated argument. To do is to look at the evidence, fool, Purge's intercom bellowed. It's killing her. This is literally killing her. You think I don't see that, you daft old bitch? Mr. Blue was grimacing at the readings, scrolling by on the stone display. He punched it, cracking it slightly. Yo! Jade shouted. She threw the mirror at the splintered granite. It absorbed and reformed as she finished. What the hell is going on in here? All was silent, except the pervasive hum in the immense Aegean control room. Finally, Mr. Blue sighed, slid forward a lever. Jade felt Purge dematerialize. I'll show you, he said. When they had arrived, Jade walked out of the wall to see the time stream. It wasn't the heliotrope waterfall of light and galaxies she'd remembered. No pervasive rumbling thunder, no warm, grateful feeling. Everything was deteriorating and crumbling, sick, gray, slow. This is what happened. Mr. Blue followed her out. It's always something with you, Jade breathed deeply, eyes adjusting to the sadness. The stranger in blue smiled weakly. I kinda overkilled it. I gathered that much. Don't be shirty. I don't even know what that means. Don't be an arse. You're the one who destroyed everything. You're the asshole here, dude. Mr. Blue coughed. Right then. Fair enough. Let's fix this, shall we? Fix your mistake? Sure. Why not? Yes. My mistake. Chivvy along then. He ushered Jade back into the cracked column. Jade took her place by the sapphire and teal steampunk podium. Mr. Blue looked up. Purge? Purge sighed overhead. Actually sighed. I don't like doing this, you know. She's not a time lady. Mr. Blue nodded sarcastically. Yes, well, you would say her grasp of time has now and again saved our asses, would you not? Just bloody do it. There was no response, but the lectern changing shape. It opened a panel on one side to reveal a strange honeycomb-shaped design of coral. It was fleshy, alive. Some bits of mucus stripped here and there. I've slave purged to you again. She's going to attempt to find your genetic temporal bioline. Mr. Blue explained as he placed Jade's hands into the organic skin and coral mesh. It was soft and warm and wet. She felt a tingle of electricity. Use your explaining words, doofus. Purge is examining your DNA. Finding your distant ancestors. Sorting them out. Using your progeny template. We could go back in time to a good solid point in Earth's past. You know, like that show, Quantum Leap. Jade stared at him incredulous. This isn't anything like Quantum Leap. He nodded. Right, forget Quantum Leap. Mr. Blue continued working on the controls. Oh, but that would make a good show. It was a good show. Purge and Jade yelled at him in unison. He looked up. I know. How many times do I have to tell you that? I don't like this. Jade winced. Me neither, Purge echoed. Gotcha! The insane time traveler in blue exclaimed. Dog's bollocks! Jade's hands were enmeshed in the organic part of Purge's telepathic matrix on the cerulean console. Good thing, as Purge began to descend rapidly. Mr. Blue was flung against the far wall. Gravity disappeared, and Jade was floating. She started to mention something. Lock established. Diverting all power, Purge stated. Hang on, Mr. Blue grinned. Do I have a choice? Jade scowled. He ignored her. This will feel a bit like crashing. Why can't it feel a bit like landing gently? Mainly because we're crashing. Jade went lightheaded as sparks blasted from every electrical portal in the room. It felt like tumbling upside down into Niagara Falls, crashing into every rock. The turbulence shook her very bones. The cloister bell sounded. Dull, throbbing, aching, and loud alarm throughout Purge. Mr. Blue struggled to the control panel, pressed the button to reveal the enormous hollow-screen viewer. On it, Earth suddenly appeared, crackling and hazy, and tinted green. He continued to type in coordinates, a strange red tracking square, erratically moving about land masses on the planet. It was trying to lock onto something. Earth was coming closer. Damn it! Damn it! Mr. Blue pounded the Azure console. Jade was screaming despite her best efforts not to. Europe came into view as they dropped from the sky, the column breaking apart in the atmosphere, chunks of it bursting into flame. At the last possible moment, the red tracking system locked onto some place in France. Bordeaux, Yervac. There was an escalating, pulsing, rising electrical noise. Then, the familiar sound of mechanical angels. Then, an impact like Jade had never felt before. It was so violent it flung her and Mr. Blue tumbling through the entire entry wall, clear outside of the time machine altogether. Jade panted, trying to catch her breath, her heart pounding into her chest. She looked down at herself. She didn't seem to be... All right, Mr. Blue interrupted her thought. You injured? He stood, dusting off his cobalt and navy suit. No, came the answer. Jade stood, somewhat in a daze, looking around at the small bedroom. It was so old. Where the hell were they? She glanced over to see Mr. Blue gently touching an old grandfather clock, faded lapis-colored and peeling. The clock face was ivory in color, with ornate iron hands. Beautiful, but ancient, just ancient. It was as antique and dusty as this world they'd landed in. Right then, Mr. Blue said, taking his hand from the big blue grandfather clock. Purge could have picked a worse disguise, I suppose. That's Purge. Jade knocked on the side of the clock. Indeed. She's spent, however. Needs time to recharge as she's used up all her energy. Plus, reserves getting here. Now's the part where I ask, where the hell is here? Right? Smashing, Mr. Blue replied. We are, in fact, in 1767 France. You are currently occupying the time stream of one of your ancestors, Lady J. Sylvia Esquire III, a duchess from northern Italy. If you can imagine. What the hell am I going to do here, dude? Mr. Blue shrugged. Chillax, as you youngsters say. I need to figure out some anomalies nearby. Why was this the only place Purge could get to temporarily? Why lock here? Got to get this sorted. Chillax. Jade put her hands on her hips. You're already a part of this culture. There are things here that aren't what they seem. Something is happening here. Something brought Purge to this timeline. Stay under cover. Keep an eye on things. Report, as usual. I'm not a detective, you jackass. You are for the next week or two, so make the best of it. Mr. Blue grinned like an idiot. Come on, there's a mystery here, and we have to solve it. We can fix everything. Taking the biscuit. Jade rubbed her forehead. Oh dear God. The time traveler pointed at Purge, now a blue antique grandfather clock. She's knackered. Just acclimate to this society for a bit. Keep a lookout. I'll be in touch. Mr. Blue bolted out the door, leaving Jade with her hands in the air, dumbfounded. What are you going to do? She shouted at him. Find trouble. I'll be in touch. Her hands collapsed down at her sides, and she looked up at the ceiling, sighing. Jade heard Mr. Blue shout at her in the distance. Unchange your blotted clothes!